on KGW News, soaking up the sunshine.
So this feels good. Portland is long overdue.
How long this unseasonably warm weather will stick around. Also tonight, Hollywood comes to the Rose City. The big name set to turn heads and stop traffic. Plus,
people just got so used to this kind of like more European lifestyle.
The tweaks underway to give Portland's outdoor dining scene and joie de vivre staying power. And later, a side job for Oregon's Secretary of State, her cannabis consulting gig that's now raising eyebrows. Good evening, and we begin with a record-breaking and, dare we say, hot day in the Northwest, where tonight it is still 69 degrees over the Rose City. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino. Matt, I got to say, what a day. So what is in store for tomorrow?
Yeah, it's still going to be warm tomorrow, but not as warm as today. We got a really nice warm night going on out there, but not so warm that you should have any trouble getting comfortable. It will cool off into the 50s overnight tonight. The airport's still at 71. We're 69 downtown. The winds are still out of the east out of the airport, but that's going to begin to change during the day tomorrow. So let's check out some of the records that we had today, because there were a lot of them. These are the all-time April records that fell today. Hillsborough, 90. Well, it didn't fall, but they tied 1998 and 1957 for your warmest day in April on record over in the Hizzy. In Astoria, 86 breaks their previous all-time record high temperature for the month of April, set back in 1986, so that's impressive there. And at Scappoose, 89 degrees, that ties 2016. That's a year we had a good heat wave in April 2016. That pops up a lot in the record book. Some other records for you. Again, Portland, 88. We didn't set the all-time record for the month of April, but it was our third warmest April day at the Portland airport. Vancouver, 88 degrees, breaking its old record from 1926, nearly a 100-year-old record there. Downtown Portland, 87, breaking our record from 1998 as well. And Tillamook ties for its warmest April day as well at 86. So to answer the question, what's coming up next? Well, low 80s tomorrow, so a little more comfortable for a lot of people. Much cooler on Sunday, like much cooler, only in the 60s. And next week looks pretty good. A couple of showers, we'll talk about that, but temperatures in the 60s and 70s. We're not going back to, believe it or not, David, just 8 days ago, we had a high of 47. Today we had a high of 87. We're not going back to the 40s.
That's incredible. A little bit of balance, a little bit of good news. Thanks, Matt. See you in a bit. Chances are you spent part of the day outside, maybe went for a walk, planted in the garden, or found a patio. When it comes to the dining outdoors, the city of Portland says yes, restaurants can still use street space for their tables and chairs, though there is a catch. It's no longer free. Catherine Cook shows us what else is changing.
Ooh, this is the kids' quesadilla.
On Southeast 31st and Division, there's a special reunion unfolding between people and the sun.
And I've been amazed how many people have been like out eating outside today.
Since the pandemic, there have been more outdoor spaces to do that in, and they've stuck around.
And I think it's a great thing. I think the more that we can have people out on the streets and using the space is wonderful.
Back in 2020, the city started issuing healthy business permits. They allowed restaurants to turn side streets like this one into dining plazas, or take up 1 or 2 parking spots to set up dining platforms.
Through the pandemic, we felt very fortunate to be able to have this big outside area. Post now that it's over, it's a huge relief.
Alex Cornella owns the Imperial Bottle Shop and Tap Room. For him, the street plaza was the way to go. For 2 years, the extra space was free, but no longer. Starting in September, the city began charging $3.13 per square foot for dining plaza permits.
It's absolutely going to be worth it for us. I mean, it's definitely, we're still able to have all this seating and generate money from it.
For street parking platforms, it's now $500 for one space and $1,000 for 2. Permits are good through the end of the year.
We're trying to make this a sustainable program for the long term.
PBOT's Dylan Rivera says the city had been paying for the street dining program with federal COVID relief funds. Besides covering costs, PBOT is also designing new permanent rules for street seating. They'll focus on safety, making sure the installations don't block line of sight for drivers or people on foot.
Definitely there's some that are not permitted, so yeah, so that's cause for concern. We've started conversations with many of these businesses, and we're starting with education, just letting them know what the rules are, answering questions, that sort of thing.
Restaurant owners are weighing in. Some would like to see seasonal permits rather than having to pay for a full year. And Alex says spreading the payments out would also help.
The one sort of challenging thing about it is that they are, asking people to pay that fee one time per year. And so they're hitting a lot of businesses post-pandemic when they don't have a lot of money available.
The city is grateful for the feedback, and people out here are grateful for the sun. Hard to believe we've taken 3 trips around it since all of this started. Hard to believe indeed. Now, after collecting enough feedback, PBOT plans to turn over the renewed guidelines to City Council for approval. And they say around 1,000 businesses have at some point taken advantage of this program. To learn more or to apply for a permit, just go to KGW.com. David.
Glad to see the program sticking around. Thank you, Catherine. Let's get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now. Marion County Sheriff's deputies are searching for a thief they say started a fire inside a Salem Target store before he stole a bunch of merchandise. These are surveillance photos of the suspect from last Saturday at the Target on Center Street. Deputies say he lit a fire in the toy aisle as a diversion and then took off with his haul out the back door. In Washington County, the man who authorities say shot a woman in an attempted robbery last Friday is now behind bars. Deputies arrested Glenn Hornsby today. He's accused of trying to rob a woman in the Cedar Mill area last Friday, shooting her once in the chest, then firing again as she drove away. She survived and was treated and released from the hospital. Another day, another major fentanyl bust. Oregon State troopers seized all of these drugs during a traffic stop on I-5 in Salem. The 11.5 pounds of powder is equal to roughly 3.5 million lethal doses of fentanyl. Troopers also found 4 pounds of meth, 1,000 suspected fentanyl pills, and a little bit of cocaine. The driver is now in federal custody. And a heads up on the Hawthorne Bridge. Hollywood is taking over a couple of lanes this weekend for a movie called Little Wing. It might attract even more attention because of who's starring. Kelly Riley from Yellowstone, love her, and Brian Cox from Succession. 2 lanes of the bridge will be closed starting at 8:30 tomorrow morning until early Sunday. Flaggers will be out directing traffic. Developing tonight, Portland police are trying to find the driver who took off after killing a man who was crossing the street in a wheelchair. The hit and run on Northeast 82nd near Gleason, a notoriously dangerous stretch of road. Alma McCarty went to find out why it's such a trouble spot.
Early Friday morning, just after midnight, police and paramedics arrived on scene in the Montevilla neighborhood. Despite life-saving measures, the victim, a man who was crossing the road in a wheelchair, died on scene after he was hit by a car. The driver of that vehicle took off before officers were called in.
82nd is not necessarily the safest street we have in the community. And unfortunately, in this case, the individual was struck and did not make it.
Although they don't currently know whether a walk sign was on, PPB believes the man was in or near a crosswalk and crossing Gleason.
Hearing about that, it's just like people are, especially around here, they're not careful.
Midday Friday, people who live or work around this intersection, Northeast 82nd and Gleason, weighed in, explaining caution is a must.
People don't always pay attention. Some people, there are those who do pay attention, but especially around nighttime, it's just, yeah, that's the crazy time.
I make a point of always checking left, right, and left again. This morning, a car took a wide turn while I was driving and almost clipped me. So they went from the far lane to the far lane. And so across the board, it's just being aware of other drivers, whether you're on foot or driving.
That kind of close call happening to our photographer. 2 vehicles made a right turn while he was crossing the road with the walk sign on.
There's been multiple times where people just rushing,
The city took over the high crash corridor from ODOT last year. PBOT started making safety improvements at the beginning of this year. In January, officials told KGW drivers can expect signs to let them know how fast they're going on the 30-mile-per-hour road. Pedestrians will get better crosswalks and street lighting. PBOT said they'd also be introducing new traffic signal controllers to reduce the opportunities for drivers to speed through multiple lights. People here hope those changes materialize soon.
There's all kinds of things in this part of the city where we should be much more cognizant of kids, and the drivers certainly aren't, and I would like to see the city do something to help with that.
Alma McCarty, KGW News.